We live in a world full of suffering. Every day, people endure pain they never asked for, disease, loss, poverty, trauma, and ultimately death. And when people cry out, when they dare to question why they must endure such anguish, they're often met with perhaps the most pernicious form of victim blaming ever conceived. You chose this, your soul signed a contract before you were born. This is gaslighting dressed in spiritual garments. Let me be absolutely clear about what's happening here. When someone tells a suffering person that they chose their pain, that their soul deliberately selected their traumas before birth, they are engaging in a form of psychological manipulation that shifts all responsibility away from the conditions that create suffering and places it squarely on the victim. It's the ultimate blame reversal, and it's cruel. Before we can even begin to address soul contracts, we must first establish a foundational premise: whether souls actually exist. This isn't a trivial question, it's the entire foundation upon which the soul contract theory rests. Yet proponents of this theory routinely skip this step entirely. They simply assert that souls exist, then build an elaborate narrative on top of this unproven assumption. This is a fundamental failure of argumentation. A valid argument requires premises that are demonstrated to be true, leading to a logical conclusion. The soul contract argument looks like this. They claim that we have souls without providing any truth. They claim that these souls make choices before we were born, also without providing any truth. They claim that these pre-birth choices bind us to suffering without providing any truth. And the conclusion is, you chose your suffering. I hope you can see the problem with this argument. Every single premise is an assertion without evidence. This isn't reasoning. This is storytelling repackaged as an explanation. Where is the evidence that souls exist? Where is the peer-reviewed research? Where are the repeatable experiments? Where is anything beyond anecdotes, feelings, and the circular logic of I know souls exist because I feel my soul? Feeling something does not make it real. People feel many things that aren't true. Even if we were to grant, for the sake of argument, that souls exist, the soul contract theory still crumbles under ethical scrutiny. Imagine telling a child born into extreme poverty who will watch their siblings die of preventable diseases, who will never know any safety or security, you chose this. Your soul wanted to learn from this experience. Imagine telling a person dying of cancer at 30, you chose this illness before you were born. It's part of your growth. Imagine telling someone who endured years of abuse, your soul signed up for this. It was your spiritual evolution. This isn't empathy. This isn't compassion. This is an attempt to blame someone for their own suffering using a metaphysical veneer. The soul contract narrative does something insidious. It takes the randomness and injustice of existence and retrofits it with meaning and purpose, but only by making the sufferer responsible for their own torment. It says the world isn't broken. You aren't a victim of circumstance or biology or chance. You wanted this. Here's the fundamental truth that the soul contract theory tries to obscure. None of us consented to exist. We did not choose to be born. We didn't choose our parents, our bodies, our brains, our genetic predispositions, our countries, our historical moment, our socioeconomic circumstances. All of this was decided without our input. We were thrust into existence without permission. And now we're told that actually, secretly, before we had any conscious awareness, some ethereal version of ourselves planned all of this. That we wanted to experience suffering and death. This is a retrofit. It is a story invented to make the unchosen nature of existence feel less uncomfortable. But discomfort with the truth doesn't make fiction into fact. Why do people believe in soul contracts? Because the alternative is harder to bear. The alternative is that suffering is often meaningless, that children die for no reason, that pain isn't always productive, that existence is imposed upon us without our consent, and we must navigate it as best we can until we die. Soul contracts offer a comforting narrative. Everything happens for a reasoning. Suffering has purpose. There is a plan. But comfort is not the same as truth, and the cost of discomfort is high. It's paid by those who are told their unchosen suffering was actually their choice after all. This isn't just philosophically wrong, it's psychologically damaging. It prevents people from fully acknowledging the injustice of their circumstances. It short circuits legitimate anger and grief. It tells people that their pain isn't something that happened to them, but something they did to themselves. Let me be crystal clear about something. Those who believe in soul contracts bear the burden of proof. It is not my responsibility to disprove their claims. That's not how rational discourse works. If I told you that invisible unicorns control the weather, you wouldn't need to prove me wrong. I would need to prove myself right. The same principle applies here. When someone claims that souls exist, and these souls sign metaphysical contracts before birth, they are making an extraordinary claim. They need to provide extraordinary evidence. I don't need to disprove soul contracts. I simply need to point out that no one has ever proven the existence of soul contracts. We all know how babies are made. Procreation requires a sperm and an egg. Two people have sex, biological process unfold, and 9 months later, a human being exists. This is observable, testable, and repeatable in reality. We understand the mechanics of conception, gestation, and birth. We see it happening, we can document it. Nowhere in this process do we observe a soul choosing its parents. Nowhere do we see a cosmic contract being signed. Nowhere is there any evidence of pre-birth consciousness making deliberate choices about which life to enter. If procreation doesn't require sex, it would actually produce a soul level choice. We see billions of people born through immaculate conception, but we don't, because that's not how reality works. Reality works through biological processes, not metaphysical contracts. The soul contract theory asks us to ignore everything we actually know about how humans come into existence and replace it with an falsifiable claim that conveniently can never be verified or disproven. This is not insight, it's wishful thinking. The soul contract theory is gaslighting because it does what all gaslighting does. It denies your reality and replaces it with a narrative that serves someone else's needs. In this case, the need to believe that suffering is meaningful and chosen rather than imposed, and often senseless. When someone is suffering and they're told, you chose this, what they're really being told is, don't question the system, don't be angry about your circumstances, don't hold anyone accountable, blame yourself, or rather, blame your soul, which is conveniently unavailable for comment. This is not empathy, this is not compassion. This is an abandonment of all logic dressed as enlightenment. Real empathy looks suffering in the face and says, "This is unjust. You don't deserve this. You did not choose this. Your pain matters, and it's not your fault." Real compassion doesn't require us to believe in an unprovable metaphysical contract. It only requires us to acknowledge a simple truth. We were all brought into existence without our consent, and the least we can do is not blame each other for the suffering that results. The soul contract excuse is the ultimate gaslighting because it takes the fundamental violation of our existence, that we never chose to be here, and tells us we actually chose it. We just don't remember. I reject this narrative. I reject the victim blaming, and I reject the demand that we provide our own cosmic justification for suffering we never asked to endure. We did not choose this. We don't owe anyone a spiritual excuse for acknowledging the truth.